all know that social media is something that we need to be using nowadays. So today, I actually invited Cher Jones, who's a social media influencer. She knows LinkedIn in particular. She actually knows every platform, but really today we really focused on how do we use LinkedIn? What are the mistakes that people do with their LinkedIn profile? And what could you do as a service-based entrepreneur to really optimize how you use the platform? So let's go to right now to my interview with Cher Jones. Welcome. Today we have with us Cher Jones, founder of Social Active Training, with us to talk about this whole thing about social media. Cher, welcome, and thank you for accepting the invitation.
Oh, thank you for having me, Sarah. This is an exciting, listen, I've never met a mic I didn't like. So I'm just happy to be on your podcast today.
Awesome. It's funny because we met, well, actually, I heard about you when I was on Clubhouse in a room where we were talking about LinkedIn, and somebody asked a question of who are the LinkedIn influencers that we should know, and your name popped up. And that's really how I connected with you on LinkedIn. And then from there we shared, I checked out your stuff and everything, and I found that it was super interesting. So for the audience, how about you give us the short version of who you are?
So I am a corporate social media trainer, and I have a company called Socially Active Training. And what I do is I focus on the personal brand for business, meaning how people show up as professionals in the corporate space, and they create a digital presence that makes people want to work with them, for them, or refer them, because most people just don't know how to show up professionally on social. So that's what I focus on.
That is awesome. And I like the fact that we share similar audience, service-based entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So like our conversation today is not about how to get 3 million followers on TikTok.
Yeah.
It's really how do you use it as a business development tool when you're in a service-based business.
Exactly.
So I'd like to set the table with a question. With the first question that comes to mind is, why should entrepreneurs focus on social media?
The main reason why they need to is because this is our go-to validation tool. So what you have is this wonderful opportunity to give people the language to talk about you when you're not in the room, because most often referrals happen when you're not in the room, or else you'd be, and these days, what room are we in? Exactly. So what's happening is, oh, this is the person I'm talking about. And then they'll send you them a link to most likely their LinkedIn profile, because that's how we validate people professionally. It's, in fact, I call it the professional home for our personal brand. And LinkedIn, most people tend to default, especially if they're not active on it, they tend to default thinking around it being an employment site. But it is so much more than that, because you have the real estate to create a bio, to tell people what it is you do and how you serve, as well as position, whether it's multimedia, like videos, PDFs, documents, everything. And this is a wonderful landing page, because what you have is this wonderful opportunity where if someone is not interested in having you as their accountant or their engineer or something like that at this time, they're not going to go to your website, but they will connect with you on LinkedIn.
Yes. And it's true that nowadays, like, I know whenever I meet someone in the old world, like in person, but whenever I meet someone, one of the first things that I'll do is I'll actually go straight to LinkedIn, enter their name, search their name there, and connect straight from there. So we don't even exchange business cards anymore. And one of the first things, like I said, whenever somebody talks about something, that's where I'm going to go first. Is the platform.
Absolutely. I think So to address something you said, we don't exchange business cards anymore. I think we still do. I think business cards are still relevant. Like we haven't gone the full transition over, especially if you're dealing with established professionals and consultants who've been in the game for a while. They're still going to have a business card, but all we use is this business card really is to find their LinkedIn profile later. So exactly. So that's what we have to think about. And so what most people do on LinkedIn is they put their resume up,
Yes.
right? And that means nothing to anybody who's thinking about working with you. So what you need to do is shift it from telling me all the stuff you did to get to where you are today, because that's what most people do. They just update their title and they have a resume of all the things that they've done. No one cares. But if you can tell me how you can help me, or how you can help the person I'm going to be referring you. Now I have the language to talk about you. I have the language that you're giving me. So you are my best source as long as you take advantage of this opportunity.
So true. And and it's very true that I think originally LinkedIn was for employment.
Yes, yes, it was.
And it really shifted really now as a business networking. And a lot of the profiles are still made as a resume. I did this, I graduated from there, and this is where I worked.
Yeah.
That's it, that's all. So, which kind of ties in, and probably is probably number one of my next question is, what are the biggest mistakes that people do when using LinkedIn?
For sure. They are not using the key areas that make a world of a difference, because they have two outside of the profile picture, which is what we will always see when someone shows up. So you want to make sure that it's a likeness of you. And, there's things that change and whatever. Half the times my hair's curly, half the times it's straight. So it is what it is, but the red lipstick stays the same.
That's part of your brand.
Exactly. So I've got that going on. But so when you look at me at the end of the day, you're still like, okay, that's the girl or the woman that I'm connecting with. But what's really important is that headline. So most people will just say, social media trainer at Socially Active. Well, that's great, but it doesn't really sell me. It just tells you what I am. So you have this real estate where you have over 220 characters to tell people what it is you do and how you serve, right? So you want to take advantage of that space, because for most people seeing you online, that is what they will read. They will never read your about section, but that doesn't discount the importance of your about section. So this would be another big mistake that people make. They don't take advantage of the about section, because the people who are reading the about section, those are the people who really want to know about you. So this is your opportunity to influence their perception of you, to introduce yourself. So people will often write their about section in the third person as if somebody else wrote it, when we all know you wrote it, right? And so that if you introduce it, if you look at it as an introduction, if you look at it as an elevator pitch to what you do, you will see that you'll create more opportunities for business.
I love it. So I already have two questions. First, I know in our audience, we have a lot of financial advisors, which on a compliance perspective, they need to write in their headline, financial advisor.
Yes.
Now it makes me think that there's nothing preventing them for after that legal requirement.
Correct.
That they actually write what should or could they write in that section, like
helping my clients navigate their financial decisions.
So basically, the outcome that
Yes.
people are going to get when working with you. So it's not like, write your title or write the outcome. You can actually have a combination of both.
Absolutely. And I actually recommend it. I always like to see titles first. And the reason why is, one, they're searchable. Two, we want to know, like, I know there's this whole concept of don't put me in a box of my title. I get it. Right. But that's what most people want to know. This is a communications tool. Right. And that's what they're searching for. So you got to give the people what they want. Right. But that's not stopping you from giving yourself an additional title. right? And that's not stopping you from creating an outcome statement, as you called it. And exactly true. So you can identify the people that you work with. Let's say that you're a financial advisor who only works with people in land developers, right? That's your thing. Now you get to niche down.
Yeah.
Right.
So from there, after your title, your
Yes.
official compliance title, you put your outcome or
Yes.
target market, that precision
Yeah.
of, oh, that's the person for me.
Mm-hmm.
I
You
think
got
that's
it.
a huge addition, because yes, and sometimes we see those really fancy, I help you bring peace of mind to whatever, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know what you do.
Exactly.
But we need to know fast what do you
do.
then who you help, how you help.
You got it.
Coming back to the about section. So a lot of people, yes, I do agree. A lot of people write it at the third person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why though, but anyhow.
Because it feels formal. We have to recognize how this network has morphed. We've morphed from a very professional resume, job seeking. It's what we've been taught. So it's not that it's wrong. It's just not optimal. It's just not the best way to connect with somebody, right? So it's not wrong. It's just not best.
True.
I just don't want to make people to feel bad, right? Like it's the worst thing. They made the cardinal sin on LinkedIn. It's like, no, it's not that deep, but I can
Definitely not.
yeah, it's like, relax, it's okay. But yeah, you want to make sure that you're making the best introduction possible.
So let's talk about the about section. What should go in there? So you said elevator pitch.
Yes, basically think of it like a glorified social elevator pitch. You have 2,600 characters to work it. That doesn't say you need to use all of them. But what you need to do is, here's another mistake that most people make. So if I told you in my headline that I'm a social media trainer, and you already know my name on my profile, right? Because it says it right there. My name is Cher Jones. A lot of people will make the first mistake of saying, hi, my name is Cher Jones and I'm a social media trainer. It's like, yes, we know. Right? So you've got that going on. It's just like, okay. It's repetitive. You've already bored me. So what you need to do with that first line is think about what your clients are going through right now. So, and use that to hook them in, because you've already told them who you are and what you do, right? So what you need to do is, like in my situation, I can say something to the effect that the business world has completely changed. And gone completely digital. We now look people up before we take their meeting, before we respond to their email, before we answer their call. And what happens when somebody looks you up? Are they going to be convinced that your brand is ready for business? As a social media trainer, I work with leaders, consultants, and professionals. Do you see what I'm saying? So I've just that flow.
And there's a context of, this is the problem, this is the situation.
You got it.
This is how I can help.
Yes.
Yes. As opposed to, I've been doing this for 23 years and I've graduated from this. So
no one cares yet. It's not to say that that information is not important. It's just that in the beginning, I don't care. But if you can tell me what you do for me and how you help me, and then maybe a little bit about your process, and here's the reason why I'm able to help my clients. I've worked here, I've done this, I've done that. And so that comes in at the bottom, because now people are like, oh, she can help me do this, right? And that's why you are now giving people the language to now talk about you. You've established the issue. It can be an industry issue, a specific client issue that most of your clients face, right? It could be something like, for example, accountants right now, with all the different tax laws that have been come in specifically around COVID. This is something where they can now address. There's so many different tax changes. And I make sure that as an accountant, I make sure that my clients are maximizing as many as they are eligible for. Something like that, right?
Yes. And it's like, so you're really addressing, because in business, we are a solution to a problem.
Yes.
Our job is to really voice that problem, because the person they have it, they don't necessarily name it, all the time. Sometimes I do, but not all the time. So our
Mhm.
role is really to name it and say, okay, now, and in a way that it's a storytelling.
Exactly. And this is the shift from an employment centric profile
Mm.
to a service centric profile. This is how I can help you,
Nice.
as
So
opposed to this is what I've done.
yes, it's like,
Mhm.
and it's not about rah rah, it's all about me.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's where also the social, because social media is a platform,
Hmm.
it's a medium, it's a tool.
Hmm.
Social networking is about relationships,
Correct.
going back to human, and I find that we really mistake between the two words. It's like, no, we're still in a human to human business,
Exactly.
there's a vehicle. So we have a few of the mistakes that we see people. Now,
Hmm.
if we talk about what should people or what people could be doing, and I'd like to go and explore in terms of usage, because I've read somewhere that 70% of the LinkedIn profile are non-active.
Hmm.
So if I'm a service provider and basically the business is me, my expertise, how should I be using LinkedIn?
So one of the things that you need to be doing is every time that you're set up for a meeting, because the thing is, active is a questionable thing because people use it at different levels. So those stats are very interesting as what they're qualifying as active. Most people will use it at least as a reference check, but you're seeing more and more people, especially as we've navigated through this pandemic and we're seeing this digital first business environment and more people are adopting the technology. It's like a tsunami of digital goodness, right? So in business, so more and more people are using it. That I would say that that's generally an excuse that especially established professionals make, is that, oh, people are not really on it. No, they're on it. What they may not be doing is they may not be actively liking things or commenting because they're afraid. They, especially in more regulated regulated industries, they're really afraid because they've been told don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, but they've never been told what to do. So there's just a fear factor, but they're there. So what you can do to answer your question is you can start to, when you meet somebody, connect with them right away on LinkedIn. When you have a meeting with somebody, connect with them. Hey, I'm looking forward to next week's meeting, but in the meantime, let's connect here. Because what are you doing? You're putting your profile that tells them how you could help them in front of them, and you didn't have to say a word.
True. And like coming back to your comment of like people are active but yet not active, the number of times where people do not like one of my posts, they do not comment on one of my posts, but they're either, when I talk to them, they'll mention it, or they'll email me or message me about
Correct.
that post. So
Correct.
not because the analytics um, are not there in terms of comments and shares and likes and whatever
Mhm.
interaction, does not mean that people did not see it. Like I find people tend to be very discreet
Yes.
on LinkedIn.
Especially in the established professional space, they're getting their social footing and they're trying to figure out, because it's interesting. There's a lot of, if I post this, I could end my career. It's just like, you're just liking a comment about productivity. You're okay. But one thing that LinkedIn, so for those of you who are thinking about creating content that
Mhm.
can now attract more opportunities, the one thing that's awesome about LinkedIn is that they have included in their algorithm. So that's basically what determines what you see in your newsfeed, depending on what you engaged with. So what they do is they've included this thing called dwell time. So how long somebody is staying on a post. Even if they didn't like it or comment it, it's getting counted, because that's the nature and the culture of LinkedIn, that more people are active scrollers, but not active engagers in that sense. So they're counting that as engagement. So if someone's reading your article, you spent more than 5 seconds, like you stopped your scroll and you're taking a look at it, you hit the more button, even though I didn't like it, they're saying, oh, this person likes that person's content. We'll make sure this person sees that person's content again.
And
And that's,
which makes LinkedIn, sorry to have interrupted,
it's okay.
they're very different from other platforms like
Yes.
Instagram or Facebook, where it's all about volume. There
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about dwell time.
Yes. And that's the other thing with LinkedIn is like they've shifted. within their algorithm. So like it would have been, 2015, 2016, maybe all even up to 2019. No, not that far. But people were posting every day, several times a day, treating it almost like it was Twitter. You know what I mean? Like just posting links and everything like that. But what we found this year, over the last year with LinkedIn, is the algorithm doesn't really reward people who post every day in the same way. So what you'll find is if you post your posts too close together, one of them suffers. All of a sudden it's like, it could have been doing well. And you're like, this one was doing great. Now no one's seeing it because the algorithm kind of kills off that one and works with the next one. So you want to give yourself a bit of breathing space, which is a huge relief for many people. And the type of clients that I work with are established professionals. Either they work in the corporate space or they sell to the corporate space, or they're selling with other professionals or working with and serving other professionals. So, and entrepreneurs. So what they have to recognize as well is you don't need that much content. Most of my social media visibility is based off of one piece of content a week. Sometimes I do a few more, but on average, I would say I'm 1.5 pieces of content a week. I have my show every week on Tuesday nights, and that's it.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not out there posting like crazy. I'm working.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest fear of people is that if I go on social media and then I'll have to be there all the time and be posting and commenting and everything. And I'm like, whoa, no, that is not the case,
It can be the case if those are your goals, but the established professional, the established consultant, that established service-based entrepreneur, that's not a goal. It's not about, for some it is. If they want to, if they have a book, if they're a speaker, they need to build a broader audience. But that's a different strategy for a different type of entrepreneur with that type of goal. But most people who it's about business development and relationships, maintaining their relationships, they've got to go about it in a different way.
So true. So true. And I think I can, when people are going to watch it, they're going to go, oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Pretty much.
That pressure that people think that they need to be there all the time.
Yeah. And they really don't. And so what I've been able to do is really, and I've been pushing this out from a thought leadership perspective on my space, is really around a professional digital presence is the foundation to a full-blown personal branding strategy. And I would argue that most people just require a professional digital presence so that they are actively using it as a relationship tool. They occasionally are posting content, right? And it needs to be that validation tool, that credibility tool. So, and it has to influence when I look you up, I see what I get. But then as people grow and they want to increase their visibility because of it will match the strategy that they want to accomplish within their business, then they have to get even more visible. But for most professionals that cannot give the time to social media that it really requires to build a full-blown personal brand, at least have a professional digital presence that truly articulates what you do and how you serve, has some content, which would be typically evergreen content. So meaning content that doesn't go stale. It's not about the news that's happening right now. Not to say that that content is not bad because it's great, but having the stuff that would validate their expertise.
So I like it because all the insight that you shared is really touches and reaches the different level of advisors and service-based entrepreneurs. And you already established, it's just a presence, just work on your profile.
Yeah.
If you are looking to, acquiring new clients and building a platform, then you're going to want to share on a regular basis. But again, like you share 1.25 times a week. So and you have a pretty impressive following. So it's like, it's not Twitter. It's not.
It's not.
So let's treat it that way that it actually is.
Exactly. As long as you're sharing, and here's the difference. So while I only share once a week, I go for value. I know we're so tired of this word value because we hear it all the time. You got to deliver value, you got to show your value, blah, blah, blah. We're tired of that word, but it's the truth.
Yes.
So my brand is that when you hear me speak, when you consume my content, by the time you're done, you would have learned something today. So that's what I want. And so that's my brand. So, and in fact, I think that most service-based entrepreneurs, consultants, professionals, they need to think about it that way too, that the content that they're putting out there, who is it serving and what are they going to learn today? And sometimes it's not all that learning. You can mix in some, I'm not saying that, don't mix in fun, because fun's great. But I think that when you have a conservative effort towards social media, make sure you're really thinking about your audience and that they're learning from you. And because that will then just project your expertise and your experience.
I love it. And I'll just repeat it just to make sure people really grasp this. Something that will serve your audience. So for their benefit. So if you love financial market or tax laws or things like that, that is your passion. What your clients need is, what is the outcome? How is this going to serve them?
Yes.
So I see a lot of people sharing on what they love, but it's like, it would be like my dentist talking to me about like, how he does a cleaning. And I'm like,
yeah. And excited about this new filling composite. It's like, I don't care. And that's, you nailed it as far as breaking it down into something bite-sized and actionable. It is making sure that your clients care. It's not about what you like. It's about what your clients like and need to know.
I love it. I think there's so many nugget of wisdom and insight that people can take away before we wrap it up. So I have this tradition. When I do an interview, I take out my bucket of surprise questions.
Ooh.
So these are questions so we can get to learn more about the human behind the expert. So I picked 3 questions, short answer, 1 word, 1 sentence, and it's really so we get to know you.
Awesome.
A little bit more, because you've shared a lot of your expertise. So first question is, what are you the most proud of?
I am the most proud of my 2 sons. They're just doing awesome. So my ex-husband and I, we had our first son very young. So he's now 25. So we had him when we were 21. So he's in, yeah, I know. I know, just more shocking. I know. But yes, so I have a 25-year-old son he's doing his master's in school, and I'm so proud of him. And my younger son got early acceptance into a few universities that he applied for, and he's going to be going next year. So I'm so proud of them, and just the young men that they are becoming, and who their character. So that's where
it's such a privilege to be a parent. I find.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Definitely. Oh, and the way that you talk about them, you feel the love. What are your biggest goals and dreams?
My biggest goal right now, it's funny because your goals morph as you continue. And this is one thing, I'll preface it by saying, we need to do a better job celebrating when we achieve goals, because I don't think that we do. And I know I don't, and I'm working on it. So my next goal is, I have 2 books in me that I'm working on. One is on personal branding, and one's just more from a Christian perspective, and just like your gifts and your God-given gifts and how you're leveraging them. But the other one is called "And You Are," a step-by-step guide to branding yourself online, so you never have to answer that question again. Right?
Oh my gosh! I can't wait to read that.
Yes, and it's on its way. So I'm working through the process. And so, I mean, my ultimate goal, if I'm being honest with everybody, is I want to be a New York Times bestselling author. So that's the plan. And I have to dream it, do it, done. And just wherever I land, if I shoot for the stars and land on the moon, I'm good.
Well, I can say from attending a few of your Tuesday night lives, if the book is as practical and entertaining as you are, which I'm sure it will be, it's going to be fabulous.
I'm beaming right now because that's exactly what I want. I want that experience. I want that book to be the book because not everybody can afford coaching. And I totally get that. Or not everybody can afford, like companies don't all have the training programs and training budget available. So I want to help people at whatever level they're able to access me at. So, and that's why I do my show. And that's why I give away what I give away. And I don't care because it always comes back.
It does, it does. And again, today you proved it again, where you've given insight, you've shared insight for every level. Last and not least, who are your mentors in life? Formal or informal mentors?
It's interesting. I have a few. One is a fictitious character from the first 2 seasons of the show, not the rest, but one, so it's Olivia Pope from Scandal, and the season 1 and season 2, that woman inspired me. You know, she became human in 3 and 4 by the rest of the season, but season 1 and 2, amazing. I loved this woman, and she really, at that time, really, like her character is like, I adopted that character. Like, it's handled. We're gonna get done. The confidence, the owning her, like owning her awesome.
Alter ego.
Yes, exactly. Funny enough, I have the alter ego effect. I love that. Right. So that's exactly it. And so I would say that she's one of them. A wonderful man is totally a mentor of mine. His name is 𝒎𝒂, and he's just brilliant, smart, awesome, wealth of information when it comes to business, wealth of information just from community building. And I've been in a few of his masterminds, and he's a personal friend of mine as well. And his family, everything, just awesome person, awesome human being. So that's who I'd say right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Before we end, where can people find you online?
LinkedIn, of course, that is the #1 spot. And in fact, I tell everybody, never send somebody to your website because they'll find it on LinkedIn. You always send them to a place, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, where you both know that you hang out in that space, and that's the best. And of course, for your audience and for me, it's LinkedIn is the best spot. So send them somewhere where you can continue the relationship. Don't send them to a spot where it's just like, oh, that was nice, and then you're never connected. You never had that opportunity to show up. You never have the opportunity to bless them and share the wisdom that you want to share with them that could potentially help them, whether they work with you or not. Because some people will consume your content and never work with you, but they're so impressed with you that they're referring you to somebody else.
That is very true. And I can vouch as experience, definitely. Again, a huge thank you for accepting my invitation and to sharing all the insights and all the nuggets that people are actually really going to be able to put into action.
Awesome.
Right now. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I absolutely appreciate it.
I hope you liked this episode. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you connect with Cher. And if you have a Tuesday evening available, or make a Tuesday evening available, to make sure to watch her show. It's really packed with insight and actionable ideas that you use for LinkedIn, but not just for LinkedIn, for all your social media platforms. And if you're looking for more tools to build and grow your service-based business, make sure you subscribe to our blog to receive all of our interviews and exclusive content, tools that I use in my own business that you can start using in yours right now. So make sure you subscribe. And now go look at your LinkedIn profile, reevaluate how you use it, how you want to use it. And again, thank you for being here week after week, and I will see you next Tuesday.